Britney Spears' conservatorship case is back in court today as she petitions to hire her own attorney and end the conservatorship. The ACLU is supporting her bid and urging the court to ensure that Britney has all the information she needs to select a lawyer. Kaylee Hartung is in Los Angeles with the latest.
The fight for Britney Spears' freedom back in court. The parties involved in running Spears' life going before a judge for the first time since Spears delivered that powerful testimony just 3 weeks ago. The pop star saying she's been isolated, exploited, embarrassed, and demoralized by the conservatorship that's controlled her life and nearly $60 million estate. Britney telling the court, "I truly believe this conservatorship is abusive," and saying, "I just want my life back." Attorneys expected to hash out the pile of competing petitions made to the court since that bombshell hearing, including Spears' co-conservator of person Jody Montgomery's plea for security to protect her from death threats, and an assessment of how Spears' father is spending her money. Under the conservatorship, Jamie earns nearly $16,000 a month, while Britney, according to confidential court documents, says she was limited to a $2,000 allowance. The judge also said to consider Spears' request to hire her own attorney. Throughout the conservatorship, she's been represented by court-appointed attorney Samuel Ingham. But after she criticized his handling of her case in court last month, claiming no one ever told her she had the right to petition the court to end her conservatorship, Ingham filing papers asking to resign. And now the ACLU is standing up for Spears, this week filing an amicus brief supporting Spears' right to choose her own attorney and urging the court to ensure that Ms. Spears is granted access to the information and tools necessary to select a lawyer.
Hi, Britney.
Earlier this year, the documentary Framing Britney Spears renewed interest in Spears' conservatorship and the Free Britney movement. On Tuesday, the documentary nominated for 2 Emmy Awards.
All credit goes to Britney for speaking out courageously as she did in that court hearing. I think if the documentary helped provide some awareness for the general public of her conservatorship, I think that's a really good thing.
So, Diane, there's a lot of ground that needs to be covered today and a lot of people involved in these proceedings. Everyone is expected to appear remotely, and now that includes former federal prosecutor Matthew Rosengart. That's who Britney has reportedly been in discussions with to become her new attorney. But that big question, will the judge allow it? And since Britney's explosive statement 3 weeks ago, we've seen a lot of blame being tossed around. Her father, Jamie, has been deflecting it, even though through the years, no one has been more in control of Britney's life than he has. He's calling on the court to investigate those claims, but a lot of these matters today need to be taken care of first before that process can even begin. Diane.
All right, Kaylee Hartung, thank you. And for more on this, I'd like to bring in ABC News contributor Larry Hackett and partner at Fox Rothschild LLP, Sarah Wentz. Larry and Sarah, thank you for being here. Larry, what do you expect out of today's hearing? Do you think Britney could have a new attorney of her own choosing by the end of the day?
It seems possible. There's been very little visibility as to what the judge is thinking about all of this. Almost everybody involved seems to think she should have the right to choose the attorney. Whether that attorney will be chosen today remains to be seen. But so much of this still remains very confusing. She was before the judge 3 weeks ago and made that incredibly impassioned and vivid speech. Still, 3 weeks later, she has not filed a formal petition. Now, that may be because Sam Ingham, the attorney who she's had for all these years, doesn't want to be part of this any longer, and they're waiting for a new attorney. But this is moving very, very slowly. And I think you're going to find this conflict between the folks in the street and people on social media who want answers and resolution fast, and the court, which is moving very, very slowly. So I do think there'll be movement towards her getting her own attorney. Whether that happens today remains to be seen. But I think most parties involved, there is conflict indeed, but most parties involved seem to think she should at least have the right to begin the process to pick an attorney.
Now, Sarah, if the court does allow her to choose her own attorney, does that offer any sign of how the judge might ultimately rule on ending the conservatorship?
Not necessarily. I think that what the judge wants to make sure of right now is that she's got the best help to assess the situation as possible. And, if you can go back to what was filed after the hearing on the 23rd, they were supposed to be here today on an evidentiary hearing about whether or not those allegations were true. And obviously that can't really be heard today because unless she's got proper counsel there to make sure that she's being represented properly, and I think there's a lot of question about that. They just can't move forward on any of that. So it's hard to say what the judge is actually going to look at today because it's not possible to rule on everything that's been filed.
And Larry, a lot of people involved in this conservatorship dropped out after Britney spoke in court a few weeks ago, including the trust managing her estate, her court-appointed attorney, and her manager. So why are they resigning now? What's happening there?
It could be a number of reasons. It could be reputational. Someone like Sam Ingham may not want to be the guy who is being, labeled having not told Britney what went on. He claims, sources say he claims he always told her what was going on. And the idea that she didn't know that she could try to get this repealed is just not true. Larry Rudolph hasn't had a lot to do for the past 2.5 years, and he may see the writing on the wall. I know that Janie is leaving. Bessemer Trust says that they actually never really did anything. They were appointed last November, but never really took charge. So a lot of this, like I said, there's very little visibility to what's going on. I just think that people getting involved or getting out think that they just don't have anything to win by being involved. And I must say that I know nothing about this lawyer who's joining the case, but I'm already starting to see the shape and form of what used to go on with Britney when people would come around her and suddenly they'd be in charge and feel like they're in charge. And this is kind of happening again in a whole new context. So it's be very interesting to see what goes on, who becomes prominent, what happens to Jamie, who really is the central figure in all of this, and how the judge gets a handle on all of this.
Sarah, the court's expected to assess how Britney's father has been spending her money under the conservatorship. So what can we expect to hear about that?
Well, I think they're going to look very carefully at how he's been spending the money, and they have over the course of time. But now there's more scrutiny on it, and with the petition that was filed by Jody Montgomery asking for $50,000 a month of the security, and what this might mean for the estate in the future, and how much money is going to need to go out, they're going to need to reassess to make sure that Britney has enough to care for herself in the long term. And all of this continued filings and legal battles is just dwindling down her estate and not in her best interest in the long term.
And Larry, Britney's testimony last month has gotten so much attention from fans and celebrities around the world. What's the broader impact of today's hearing and Britney's case in general?
Well, that's interesting. It's an interesting question. One of the things that I don't quite understand is some of the claims she made that were very vivid, not being allowed to drive in a car with her boyfriend, the IUD that she was told could not be removed. Does the judge know that? Was the judge party to that? Who told her that? Is that written down somewhere? These are all very detailed questions, but that they go to the heart of the idea of the conservatorship. If you're telling a 39-year-old woman that she can't remove her birth control, says who? Who's in charge here? I don't know that any of those kind of questions will be answered today, but that's the kind of thing that people who aren't lawyers and who are not kind of hung up on the legal procedures want to know. And so we'll have to wait and see what happens.
All right, Larry Hackett, Sarah Wentz, we appreciate it. Thank you. And thank you at home for joining us. I'm Diane Macedo. Have a great rest of the day.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.